Good morning. It's so nice to see all of you. It's such a treat to be able to do these educational seminars every now and again, just to provide a little bit of extraneous information for you that might be really practical in your everyday life. And I think in this day and age, all of us have a digital footprint, right? That comes with who we are and what we do just throughout our normal experience. And so our goal today is to bring Melissa Hannebrink with Quietech here to talk about preparing your digital life for death. What happens to your digital footprint when you're no longer here? And how do you set things up so that your heirs or your executor can easily take care of tying up all of those loose ends and not leave any gaps in the future? So, without further ado, I'll let Melissa take over.
Thank you so much. Well, she's given me an intro to talk about a topic that can be a little bit difficult to talk about for some people. It can be a little hard to understand and to accept that we are going to pass away at some point, and the things that we have digitally are going to outlive us and now have to be dealt with by someone else. So I actually want to talk to you guys today from two different perspectives. We have the opportunity to prepare ourselves for digital death so that whoever comes after us, be that a spouse, which I throughout this will likely refer to the person just as a spouse, just to be easy, but that could be a child of yours or a grandchild or a sibling. It could be any number of loved ones in your life who have to follow after you and clean up your mess, basically. And I also bring a little bit of perspective of having almost 30 years in the IT industry and interacting with people who have lost a loved one and now need help going through this process. And so the second half, I'm going to share with you guys, if you are the survivor, what steps you can take to make this as easy on you as possible. And in an ideal world, you guys would leave here today and take the information that I give you about preparing, and you all would prepare, and then you would have such an easy time with the second part when that part comes, which will unfortunately happen to all of us. As far as her mentioning that I'll say whether or not it's appropriate to talk during class, I love this to be conversational. If you think of something or have a question while we're in the middle of talking, please bring it to my attention right when you're thinking of it. I know for me, if I have to hang on to it till the end, I'll fixate on it and I'll probably forget it by the time the end comes. So please speak up and ask questions as we go so that we can have a conversation about this. So, although none of us like to think of our time as limited, we do have this opportunity to make the people that we care about have an easier time in our absence when they're trying to go through our cell phone, our computer, and those types of important things that we exist with daily, all day long, and don't think anything of it. But a person coming in trying to get into this stuff might have a whole different experience. So the very first thing we can do, and you'll have all of this in your handout, and pretty much every word I say is in that handout. So I feel like that'll help you not have to focus too much on taking notes throughout. So I'd love for you to start by making a list of places you exist online. This can include email accounts. So it's always amazing when I'm helping a person who their loved one has passed away and we're trying to get through a technical task. And maybe that's getting their digital photos off of their phone so that we can be prepared for their celebration of life ceremony, or it could be any number of things. It's always amazing how often people did not know about an email account that their loved one had. They maybe primarily used their Gmail account, but they maybe also had a Yahoo account that they used specifically for their Apple device or something like that. So it's very good for you, the person who uses the email accounts, to make that list and say, okay, I have an email account at Gmail and it's this, and I have an account at Yahoo. So list all of those things. Social networking accounts, anything like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, making a list of all of those types of sites that you use is very important. Photograph and video sharing accounts like YouTube, anything that you are actively uploading your personal information into something else for either photos or videos, It's very important to write that down. Cloud storage accounts like Google Cloud, iCloud, Dropbox. Now, I recognize that the cloud might feel very abstract to a lot of you in this room. It still is a very abstract thing for most people. However, most of you are using the cloud in some capacity, whether you recognize it or not. So your cell phone very likely backs up to a cloud. iPhones by default back up to iCloud, and Android phones back up to Google or even like a Verizon cloud. And so most of us are in some sort of cloud ecosystem, even though we don't know that that's happening. So in some cases, it might be wise to enlist the help of whoever helps you with your IT stuff to help answer the question, do I use the cloud? And the reason that that's kind of important is because most people who use the cloud, which is most of us, a lot of our personal information is sitting there. So for example, if your phone backs up all of its photos to the cloud, all your pictures and videos are in the cloud. So that's where you would need to go to get those types of things. So it's just good to know what you have. Online purchasing accounts like Amazon, Venmo, PayPal. This becomes especially important when you have subscriptions. So let's say you have a prescription that you have come automatically to the house. Think about how hard that might be for your loved one to try to figure out where that is coming from and make it stop. That's an added stress that nobody wants when they're dealing with a lot of hard times and mental stress. Bank accounts. List all financial accounts on and offline and their details. When my grandparents passed away, it was a very interesting process trying to track down where money was headed. Between assorted bank accounts and things stuffed in various places in the house, it was an interesting experience. And so what I would say is they could have really helped our family out by just telling us where things were. We really had to struggle. It was weeks of going to banks and looking through papers, and it did us a disservice, but they didn't know they were doing that at the time. They just were existing. And so I think that's a big portion of what I'm trying to do here, is give you the awareness that we all just exist with our stuff, but somebody's going to have to deal with it after us. So we want to take an hour or two and write these things down to make it easier on other people.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
About Facebook.
Yes.
Why is that important? I mean, if you pass away.
Oh, I'm going to get into that. I will definitely come back to that because it's very important. Absolutely. And then also providing instructions on how to access them. The bank accounts is interesting, especially because I'm not a financial advisor in any way, shape, or form, but we have a lot of women come to us who find that they weren't listed on particular accounts. And when their husband passes away, that makes things very difficult. So they weren't on the account. They didn't even necessarily know about the account. So having that awareness is very helpful. And then airline and hotel reward accounts, believe it or not, that is a thing that you might want to have and pass on to somebody else. And there are some interesting rules with some of these places. So having that kind of figured out ahead of time is a really good thing.
Question.
Yes.
Back in your list, are you on just an inventory list or the password as well?
Oh, I'm definitely going to get to that too.
List the password. Make sure you say deposit box, something else.
And I'm gonna get on to that very soon here. We're going to talk about that for sure. The personal websites thing is probably not relevant to most of you, but this occasionally comes up. We had a local man who maintained a website for lost servicemen or service people of World War II. And people from all over the world used this as a reference point and sent him information to add to the site. He suddenly passed away, and the password passed away with him. So all of these families are calling the widow, trying to get help to get their family members onto this website. She has no idea how to get into it. This added a tremendous amount of stress for her right after losing her husband unexpectedly. So again, all of what I'm telling you, as you think about how much of a pain in the butt it's going to be to go through and list this, think about what a pain in the butt it will be for the people you leave behind if you pass away with this information not listed. This is a gift of love you can give to someone. There we go. There's your passwords. Compile important passwords is the next thing. So that we first want to make a list, and then now we want to know what's the password to get into all of these different places. You can keep track of all of your passwords either on a paper list or by using a digital password keeper. I really like to bring up the paper list because of how much surprising shame the paper list represents for people. I have a lot of people say, I keep my passwords, but it's on a paper list. And they drop their head and they're embarrassed because obviously there are all of these newfangled ways that we can keep our passwords digitally. That does not mean you have to use those methods. I strongly believe our society is careening us forward at a pace that is faster than most of us can keep up with, and I don't like it. So I feel like we have to push back when we can and say, I understand that this amazing function is available to me, but this down here is what works for me. And if you keep a paper list in your home, if someone breaks into your house, you have bigger problems than your paper password list, right? So I feel like if that's the method that works for you, make that work for you, but keep it up to date. So often those password lists that are on paper are drastically behind and the password is maybe 3 iterations old. So do yourself and your loved ones a favor by keeping them up to date. You can also use a digital password keeper. I use one called 1Password. You may have heard of that. You may have heard of LastPass. And then there's lots of integrated password keeping. Apple has something called Keychain or Passwords. Google Chrome will keep your passwords. Microsoft Edge will keep your passwords.
To keep your password stored online. Is one called KeyPass that does not.
Yeah, yep. So, but password keepers are by and large very secure for a few reasons, which is why I don't feel insecure keeping my passwords online. So, for example, 1Password has multiple points of entry to get in. I have to have a master password. Mine is 24 characters long. And then in addition to that, the first time I log in on a new device, it's not like multi-factor authentication where I get a code emailed or texted to me. I have to have an individual security key that is 16 digits long, that is specific to me, that I enter on that new machine. So the likelihood of someone having that key and my password and my email account is so slim, it's safer than paper.
LastPass just had a massive data breach.
Yes, I understand. I'm talking about 1Password specifically. Yeah. So every person has to gauge their own comfort level of using digital password management. He's not comfortable, and maybe you aren't either. Personally, as an IT person, I am. But I also understand that you might just want to stick with a paper list. Whatever your method is, keep it up to date. That's the most important part. Or it doesn't do any good. If you're tracking digitally, utilize the built-in family sharing or emergency access tools. So I have it set up in 1Password that if I was to pass away or become incapacitated, my husband and my father can reach out to 1Password and say, Melissa is no longer around and we need access to those passwords. Now you can set it up a variety of different ways. You can have it so the person who requests that access, who is my emergency contact, can have instant access, or they can send me an email and say, are you really gone? Because you got 24 hours to answer, right? So there's a way to kind of protect even at the very end there. So that's a very good way that you can automatically give your passwords to whoever is going to be helping with those types of digital tasks. Keep track of offline passwords too. This is something that people frequently don't think about, and this is something that gets people into trouble. QuickBooks logins, for example. So QuickBooks, newer versions are password controlled that you can reset with an email account. Versions, I believe 2021 and older of QuickBooks, the password is particular to the file. if you lose it, be prepared to ask QuickBooks for hours of paid support to unlock it. So that's an easy thing to write down, not easy to recover. Cell phone passcodes are another one. Apple will not unlock your deceased partner's phone for you, even with a marriage certificate and a death certificate. They require a court order. Oh, so it's pretty important that your partner knows your iPhone or or Android passcode to get in. Windows and Apple computer logins, those are not necessarily tied to an email account that you can reset. So having that written down is also critical. These are things that can devastate a person not being able to get access to these things in your absence. Think about if you had a repository of 20,000 pictures on your phone and you're the core picture taker of your family and you pass away and nobody can get into your phone. Now there's a workaround. So for example, I know a company that can unlock cell phones. It just costs $3,700 per phone. So do you want to write down the code or do you want to pay $3,700? So that's one of those, let's make the right decision and make it easy on everybody. Okay, organize important documents is the next thing that you can do to help out. You can digitally store vital documents or put them in a physical location that's easy to find. But you can ensure that your spouse knows where to find your will, insurance policies, any birth certificates, marriage certificates, any kind of important documentation that you think might come in handy for your family unit. Store that somewhere that everybody knows where it is. So some suggested locations, if you do use digital password keeping, there's a vault you can keep things in. So that's a good way that you can pass information off to someone else easily. On a flash drive stored in a safe or a safe deposit box. That reminds me that if you have a safe, writing down the code to that is probably helpful too, because that's one that can get lost and you have a lot of trouble with. Or in Dropbox or another cloud storage spot that is familiar to you and your partners. Think about designating a digital executor. If you aren't very tech savvy, if your partner is not very tech savvy, do you have a family member who is? Do you have a child, a niece, a nephew, a cousin, somebody who's pretty good at this kind of stuff? Because if you did, it'd be really good to set this person up to help close out accounts, digitally guide the way for your surviving partner, those types of things that you can give to them. So you can say, for example, I want all the pictures on my phone that are of our family to be put onto flash drives and distributed to my wife, my kids, my cousin that lives in Alabama, because he can get it to the extended family. Those are the types of things that you can actually dictate, just like in a will. You can say, I'm going to have this person do these things for me after I'm gone that will make everyone's life easier. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. This agent can help carry out your specific desires, like distributing digital photos. That's a big one for sure, is getting photos out. That's often what people come to me to try to get emergency help with because they're locked out and they need that. So that's one thing. Consider having a backup agent too, in case your primary agent is not available. We don't know when we will pass away. So when we set up a plan, we have to have the awareness that that plan might need to be executed in a week or in a decade. We don't know. I gave this presentation to a group in a few months ago, and the man walked up and I remember looking him in the face, and he said, "We're going to go home and do this right now." And he didn't. And 2 weeks later, his wife came in to say he had passed away, and they were completely unprepared. So they even took the education, but didn't get a chance to implement it. And then she was stuck getting my help, trying to wade through, how do I get into these things? What do I do about all of this? So, and that's very hard and frustrating for people. You know, they are grieving and they're standing in an office trying to get help with stuff. And that's not an existence that we want for people. We want this to be a smooth process.
I see it really need to make the connection between the digital executor and your other legal executor.
That's right. Yeah.
Make sure they all know.
That's exactly right. And then keep your plan current. Schedule an annual review of your plan. Check your passwords, check account information. Did you get a different bank account? Did your credit card have to be replaced during that time? Update everything that you have so that the entire plan is at least, it's maximum age it can be when you pass away would be a year old, right? So my family gathers once a year and we review where things are. We review where the trust is. We review what's going to happen if someone passes away. This is something our family actually does, and we take it very seriously because we don't want to be caught with our pants down. We want to be able to help whoever is surviving in that moment. Always include your spouse and or your digital executor in your annual review. And like I said, maybe the word spouse isn't appropriate here. Maybe the word child is more appropriate, or grandchild. Whoever is the person in your life that would be in that position to kind of take over when you're gone, if that's who you want to have included in your review. A plan only works if it's accurate. Does that sound true to everybody? Okay. Your plan can provide clarity and ease for your spouse during a very difficult time. So I want you to just really think about how much you can help by doing this in advance. Any questions on the prep phase kind of stuff? And like I said, you're going to have notes that give you kind of a checklist that you can go through. Did you get the checklist printed too?
No, did we put the checklist in that?
Okay, perfect. All right, I was making sure you have it. So, any questions on any of this so far before we go to part 2?
So helpful.
Oh, good. I love that. Okay. Yes.
Question on I had a PayPal account in the past. I closed it for any number of reasons 10 years ago. Wiped out all the payment information, everything. I get at least 2 phishing emails a week. Folks, PayPal. Of course,
We all do.
PayPal speaks Ghani, whatever. Is there any way? And I've tried blocking, and there's nothing works. It's like around it. I just really go on.
Yeah, so what you're bringing up is actually one of the biggest common scams that is going on right now. You might get a bill that says it's from PayPal, eBay, McAfee, Norton, everybody kind of familiar with getting those fake bills. Their entire goal is to get you to call the phone number that is listed in the email. And there's 2 different things. The phone number would be their ideal goal, that you call and you say, with much anger in your voice, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't pay for this. They want you to be mad when you call. That's part of the scam. And then they offer to make it all better, and it just goes downhill from there. The secondary thing that they really hope you do is you hit reply and say, I hate you, you stupid scammer. I know this is not real. That confirms that your email address is a real human, and they sell it to other scammers. So the best thing you can do is never engage. Send those to junk, delete them, never hit an unsubscribe button, never hit reply and say something, and never call a number. Surprised by the unsubscribe button, weren't you? Yeah, that's one. Okay, so remember how I said that it confirms a real person's there? Scammers do not abide by the laws of the rest of us. So while we all have the understanding that I hit unsubscribe, so the fair thing is that person doesn't contact me anymore, the scammers don't believe in fair. So when you hit unsubscribe, you have confirmed a live human being is looking at this email account, and your email address just got a lot more valuable and is filled with a lot more spam. So sorry to take a quick break from this, but I think it's super important to talk about because all of this ties together. A person's ability to scam us can be absolutely attached to anger, grief, fear, and they count on that. Yes.
Does that same for I get a lot of political things and then I unsubscribe? Is that working the same way?
It absolutely can. My best advice, because there are circumstances where we can safely unsubscribe. There really are. So I walk into Macy's and I make a purchase and they say, would you like us to email you the receipt? And I say, sure. And they email it to me. And then the next day I get a sales ad, and the next day and the next day and the next day. I can hit unsubscribe from that because Macy's is a legitimate company. I gave them the address and signed up. If I unsubscribe, they'll honor that. But I want you to consider a few things. How do I know it's the real Macy's? Right? Like there are scammers that can really pretend to be anybody. And so the safest thing, I believe, is to hit it to send to junk. Because then I don't have to sit and wonder, is this the real Macy's? Is that unsubscribe button going to be honored? If I send it to junk, I won't see it either way, so it's not my problem anymore. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
I know that that's a harsh thing because we all want to hit that unsubscribe button and turn down the number of emails, but the unfortunate thing is it's actually cranking it up for us. And we all don't recognize that's happening in the moment, but it absolutely is. So delete, disregard, send to junk, never engage.
So what's is there no difference when, like, at the top of some email provider,
Yeah.
it'll say unsubscribe at that level versus internal inside the email body getting unsubscribed? Is there a difference?
My understanding is some email providers, Yahoo, Gmail, they're actually plucking the unsubscribe link from lower in the email and putting it at the top.
Oh, is that all that?
So you're actually pressing that same link from down below.
Oh,
Yeah. So I would say sending to either junk or spam or bulk, whatever your email provider calls it, that's the best safe way. Yes.
So there's really no way to ever get those people hurt.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. If you send something to junk and you don't open it for, if you don't ever even open those messages and engage, because for example, if I send an email, whether or not read receipts are on, I can tell whether someone has opened it. Right? So you might get an inquiry that says, please send a receipt that you've read this. And you go, nope. Well, a lot of people can still see it. So if you've opened that email, the scammers can often tell that you saw it. So you're a real human.
Don't even open it.
Don't even open it. So if you send to junk and then they're going to junk for months, this is technical information, but scammers have to limit how much email they send from each address before it gets turned off. So they are motivated to cull email addresses that are not active out of their list. So over time, let's say you don't open the same email they send for 3 months in a row every single day, they might eventually remove you. And so I had a Yahoo account personally that I used for signing up for, like, I get all my Amazon receipts there, my Chewy receipts, all my receipts go to this account. And for a time, it was absolutely inundated with spam. I sent everything to junk. I rarely get junk mail there anymore. So it did get better over time. Yes.
I mean, I wanted to do what you said, but one of my email accounts, almost every day, it's almost all junk. I mean, just have to go through there, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of work
Yes, it is.
to do it. So
Yeah. Well, what some people do in that situation is get a new email address.
yeah.
So if you were to sign up for a new email address, tell the people that you want to hear from, this is my new email address, and then let the rest just kind of fall by the wayside. And you can start logging into that account less and less frequently, just making sure there's nothing important there. And then over time, you just don't ever log in again. So that is something you can absolutely do if it's just become too much and you're overwhelmed. But be careful who you give that new email address out to, because each of us, whether we recognize it or not, are directly responsible for all that spam showing up. We start it with one thing and then it just blossoms in front of us. True.
My server
Yes.
has a filtering security
Uh-huh.
system. Yeah, I suppose others do.
Yeah.
And there's a little button called something about
Send a junk. Block. Yeah, block
Block
sender.
sender.
Mhm.
and so I often will go into that and block senders
Yes.
of that.
Yeah.
Rather than do the sending.
And that's another great thing. If you don't want it to just go to junk, you can absolutely block an entire sender so that their message can't even reach your inbox. So if your provider offers that, then absolutely. And most of them do. It just depends on how in front of your face it is. Some have a button right at the top. Some you have to go into settings and dig around. So if you need help with that, let me know and I can help. Any other questions on that? Yeah.
I get those Costco.
Uh-huh.
Want to give me something.
Oh, yeah.
It's not.
No, they do not.
And it's like when you do use it for other things.
Yeah.
You're afraid to, you know.
Well, so I would say this. If you know for a fact that Costco doesn't give you free things, so you pretty much in your head, it sounds like you've gone, this is a fake Costco, right?
Yeah.
So if I send the fake Costco messages to junk, it does not prevent the real Costco messages from coming in. They're coming from two different senders. So you can effectively dump the ones that you know are the bad guys, and the good guys will still keep coming in. Yes.
Some email clients use Thunderbird have filters.
Yeah.
And so you can look for phrases, just send them directly to junk.
Yep. Some absolutely do. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Well, why don't we go into part 2, which is, again, not very pleasant, but we're going to talk about if you found yourself as the survivor and your spouse passed away. We're going to talk about what we want to do from that moment going forward, okay? So I'm going to preface this by saying I frequently interact with recent widows and widowers who have no idea what to do next, feel completely overwhelmed by the technical tasks ahead of them, and frequently have made missteps because they just are scared and want to do something in their grief. So my first advice is slow down. This is my advice for everything related to computers. So remember when I said the scammer wants you to pick up the phone and be mad and to call and start getting upset? They're banking on that. They want knee-jerk reactions. So scams and digital actions to take after you lose a spouse are very similar. You need to slow down, breathe, and think about what you're doing. This is every email you get that's a scam. This is dealing with things after you've lost someone. Slow down, think things through, get some help. These are things that I would just say, nothing requires action in this very moment that doesn't allow you 5 minutes to stop and breathe and think about what the right step to take is. Many people go into what I have referred to as control mode. Control mode almost always, for some reason, involves, for most people, canceling their partner's cell phone and closing bank accounts. I don't know what it is that prompts people, and I've asked, I'm like, I want to understand why you turned the cell phone off. Well, it was $30 a month, and I just felt like it was something I could take care of. And so the I could take care of it, I think, is really deeply indicative of how psychologically out of control a person feels when they've lost their spouse, and they feel like they can't do anything to bring that person back. So they want to control anything that they can. And one thing they can control is calling Verizon and shutting a phone down. That's an unfortunately very bad step. And I'm going to explain why. Resist the urge to take digital actions like canceling accounts or subscriptions. Many systems are interconnected that you don't recognize that can lock you out of important tools. Let's say I'm just going to say that you are the widow and your husband has passed away and you have canceled his cell phone and now you need to get into his credit card to see what's on there. But when you go to log in, it sends a text message to his cell phone that now does not exist. Oh, right? So email accounts, bank accounts, credit card accounts, and cell phone accounts are ones that you want to slow down before you do anything to those. Those are kind of down the road after you've had some time to breathe and think and do some other things, okay? Keep cell phones and email accounts active. That is my number one biggest takeaway if you are the survivor. Get multiple copies of death certificate. Having those copies available is going to make life a lot easier. My understanding is some of the organizations and entities that you interact with are starting to keep the copy of the death certificate rather than just inspect it and hand it back to you. And so all of what I'm presenting to you is combined knowledge from what my beloved clients have shared with me from what they've gone through when they've lost a spouse. So I've compiled this into helpful information that I hope can help you guys avoid some of the missteps that some of our friends and neighbors have had. So getting those multiple copies of the death certificate, when you go to get one, ask for 10 to 15. That's the number that I have been told repeatedly is the helpful number, 10 to 15. And I also had someone add in the last time I gave this presentation that having copies of your marriage certificate is also, marriage license, marriage certificate is also very helpful, because in some cases you may have to provide that.
What about stuff like car registrations and all that
So
kind of stuff?
I look back to the, if we did things the right way and we did the digital plan that was part one, all of that would be in a digital safekeeping vault, either on a flash drive in a safe deposit box or somewhere where you've stored it safely. So with all hope, we would have all of that documentation, insurance policies, registration, things like that, all would be in one central repository that we can pull from. And then we just have to add death certificates, unfortunately. Consider having copies of your marriage certificate available as well. Notify family and friends digitally. Now, this is where I'm going to get into some of the social media stuff. Unfortunately, social media, as much as it connects us and serves to really help people to keep up with their friends and family members in different places, social media is one of the number one places that bad things come into our lives. Scams, shopping scams, romance scams. Most of the scams that I have reported to me come either through the phone, somebody calling or putting a number up, or they come through Facebook. The reason I'm bringing this up is that if your friends and loved ones on social media don't know that your partner has passed away, that person's social media profile can be used to scam other people. So my best advice is to memorialize their Facebook page, which locks it. People can use it as a memorial wall. They can put nice phrases and memories about your loved one and everything that they remember about them, but it clearly marks that that person is deceased. And that's very important, because let's say John Smith passes away and Mary Jones doesn't know, and she's in Tennessee, and she gets a message from a profile that looks like it's John Smith, and she engages. And as happens to so many people in our community, John Smith the fake John Smith convinces Mary he's in financial trouble and he needs her to send some gift cards. And he will, or she will. So letting people know that this has happened is an unfortunate step that, of course, you want to tell people on your own time, but our hand is kind of forced by the fact that scammers are out to get us, unfortunately. Scammers may pretend to be the deceased online, especially if their accounts are still active. Yes.
Memorializing Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't understand the concept.
Absolutely. So pretty much all social media, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they all allow you to mark, like if you have access to the person's account, you can mark that the person is deceased. So it keeps the account in place and shows that person's face, and the page can be used for people to leave lovely remarks and memories, but it's clearly marked that the person is deceased so that their identity cannot be used to scam other people.
And how long should you let that exist?
That's completely up to you. Some people kind of let it exist in perpetuity because they just, it's nice to have that out there for people to enjoy. But you could take it down after a time. So that really is up to your individual family and how much the interaction on Facebook is. For some people, Facebook is a tiny little thing and it's a small piece of your life. And for others, they're on it from the morning to the night, so I have a lot of clients that tell me they start their morning in front of Facebook with their cup of coffee, and it's the last thing they do at the end of the day. So we all have a varying relationship with it for sure.
I have read that anything you put on Facebook or any of those social is there forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty scary to think about. We can put things out into the world and we don't really know the retention policy of the company that serves or hosts that. So I think about that with AI. Chat GPT is the big thing right now, and people are using it for therapy, and they're dating AI, and they're doing all these interesting things. And I think, what of that information could potentially be public at some point? Because I don't know the company that made this device. I don't know anything about their commitment to my privacy. So I would say, just kind of lumping onto that, we should always have the idea that any person could see what we put onto the internet. That should be in our minds. And if you have any kind of, boy, I would not want people to see this, maybe don't do it. If it's supposed to be a secret, don't do it. So, because we have no idea what information can get leaked that we put out there into the world. I read the most interesting article the other day about a man who was on a Zoom session with his therapist, and the therapist accidentally turned on his screen sharing, and he could see that everything he was saying to the therapist, he was typing into ChatGPT and then regurgitating verbally what it was saying.
Jeez.
Which is so interesting, because the article was written from the perspective that this therapist did not have this man's consent to input all of his private mental thoughts into AI. And is there defining information about who he is that could be linked to him? What happens if that guy gets hacked? And so the implications of our privacy now more than ever are spooky. It's very scary to think about how our private information could get out in a variety of ways. So I would say, just be cautious. Don't put things onto Facebook or out into the world that you wouldn't want the general public to be aware of, because that could come back to bite us at some point. Okay.
It's in through Zoom.
Well, no, Zoom, I think that's different. I mean, I'm talking about putting things onto a wall of some sort, putting it out onto typing your information. But even over Zoom, I mean, anything could get hacked, really. That's the reality. And they can reach out to friends and family with phishing messages like "I'm in trouble" or "send money." The sad thing was, for my grandmother, when my grandfather passed away, we were advised by the funeral home to not even put anything into the newspaper, because we were concerned that my grandmother would be targeted. She lives in Los Angeles, and so thinking, what's going to happen? They'll know when her house is vacant because she'll be at the funeral at that time. And then they know that an 84-year-old woman is recently widowed, living alone. So that brings up some security things that are maybe more of a pressing issue in a place like Los Angeles, but it's still very sad for us to think about how that can go down. Letting people know that your loved one has passed away helps to prevent their identity from being used to scam people that you also care about. And you may wish to memorialize their social media accounts at this time as well. Identify important accounts and passwords. That's what's next after you've lost somebody. So check your password managers, password lists. Identify the accounts you're going to need help accessing. So this would be kind of the time to get your bearings and go, okay, I need to figure out, I'm going to have to tell Tri-County's Bank. I'm going to have to tell these people that this has gone on. This is like your time to figure out what you might need help with, what works and you can get into, and just kind of keeping the pace slow again. Check subscriptions and services. So this is what I was talking about with the prescription might be showing up that you want it to stop, or anything like that. Maybe your spouse used a particular streaming service that you don't use. They were really into watching Paramount Plus for a particular show, and now you're going to get charged $14.99 for the rest of your life unless you turn that off. I know that sounds like a small detail, but these are all things that they are good to control. So when you're going into control mode, let's pick the things that you can easily take control of. Yes.
Yeah, I have a subscription, which is on a online debit card. So I figure if I pass away, they're not going to give the money. It's going to eventually, it's not that much in there anyway. It's a very small amount instead of a credit card.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean, putting a subscription, I mean, once it runs out, I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think that's
good.
yeah. I also love virtual credit cards, which might be kind of what you're talking about. If I, in the rare instance that I make a purchase from a site that is unfamiliar to me, I have a Capital One card and I go and make a virtual credit card on their website. And I say, I want $50 maximum, and they spit out a little card number and I use it to pay. And it protects me from being charged anything above the amount I have stipulated. So it's a cool way to keep my actual credit card safe and give me a little buffer. And then my maximum loss is $50. If that item doesn't show up or look right, I lost $50. So it's
Well, that money is empty on that card,
yeah,
they're not gonna.
they can't go back for more. Exactly.
You, right?
Yeah, that's right. It shuts down. Yeah,
So the digital credit card is different than your
it is. Yeah.
number. So that
Different numbers. Yeah. So it like spits out a little temporary 16-digit credit card number that you can input. It's pretty neat. Yeah. So checking subscriptions, do they have medication on auto refill? Do they pay iCloud to back up the phone? And then make decisions carefully. If they pay iCloud to back up the phone, do you have the pictures you need backed up before you turn off iCloud? And part of this is to bring your awareness to, you may not know the answer to these questions. These are complicated technical questions. So this is why I want you to have a plan in advance and have a person lined up in your life who can help with these decisions. The last thing you want to be doing a week after you've lost your spouse, if you're not tech savvy, is figure out what iCloud does, right? That doesn't sound like a very fun time for anybody. So knowing in advance and having someone lined up who does know and can help, those are two really good gifts you can give yourself. Notify financial institutions. So this is where you want to have death certificate ready. That's kind of a basic one. You need to notify them that your loved one has passed away, and then they can help take the steps necessary from there. Preserve digital assets. And so when I up here talked about checking subscriptions and services and checking out iCloud and things like that, preserving digital assets is where you want to figure out, how do I get the stuff out of iCloud, put it onto some sort of more permanent media that I can share with my kids, with our family members, that I can give to somebody at Hooper and Weaver for the service, those types of things. And so we want to download and back up photos and videos stored in the cloud, important messages, voice notes, etc. Right? Make sure nothing would be lost if cloud subscriptions lapsed. So those are pretty important ones. Most of us have precious memories on our devices that we would not want to have lost, or there are circumstances like, for example, in every house that I interact with, usually one person is the finance person and one person is the tech savvy person. And sometimes that's the same person. So I encounter situations where the husband has passed away. He did all of the finances. He did all of the computers. And now I'm here with a widow that doesn't have a clue where anything is. It's terrible. The stress and sadness that I encounter is heart-wrenching, because I want to make it better for people. I want to be like, couldn't we go back in time and get this lined up in advance? So that's why I'm here to talk to you about it today. Is I want to go back in time and fix this for you before it's too late. And get help. All of this is daunting. These are big things when you are grieving. Don't be afraid to ask for help for people. If managing your affairs feels overwhelming, hire a digital estate planner. My company does it. If you have a trust, your trust company might do it. Find somebody that can help you get through these tasks, because it's big. It's a lot. And be vigilant. Scammers use someone's passing as a chance to take advantage of the survivor. They will do anything to take advantage of anyone, regardless of circumstances. We once had one of my employees call one of the scam numbers that popped up on a Facebook ad, pretend to be a child, and the scammer encouraged him to get into his mom's purse and get a credit card out. I heard it over speakerphone in my office. So that should tell you just how low ethically the people you're interacting with are. Never ever think that they won't stoop lower than your basest imagination. Be hyper-focused with interacting with emails, texts, and social media. I bring this up especially because think about those scam emails that you brought up from PayPal. Think about how many of us are getting text messages that look like they are from USPS or FedEx or PayPal or even wrong number texts. I got an invitation to Shrimp and Slaw the other day from a 332 area code. The wrong number texts are so interesting because they want you to engage and say, I don't know who this is, so that they can wrap you up into something. So when you have just lost someone, your imagination can take you to the place of, well, maybe this was something my husband was doing. Maybe this was my husband's bill. That's another thing that happens is we have people come in with their husband's laptop and they go, my husband died a week ago and I got this email. Do I need to pay this? This is a scam, but you can see how a person might fall for something like that. So I want you to be hyper vigilant after always, but especially if you have just lost someone, so that you don't just fall into a trap because spooky things are going on around us, right? So by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that is what I'm hoping to prevent today. And I hope you guys all got a lot out of this and can go through your checklist when you get home. Thank you.
Email it to us too.
Get drunk to focus on the scam.
Any questions I can answer before we go today? I'm happy to talk about scams. I'm happy to talk about this.
When you say checklist, are you talking about this document?
I am not. That's just my presentation from today.
It's in here.
There's no checklist.
It's back there. There's like several pages.
It's like it's behind the presentation, maybe. Sounds like.
Also, email we have the PDF.
Awesome. Yes.
It's in the book.
Under promotions at the top of like Gmail.
Yeah.
About getting rid of those.
So you can make it so that Gmail doesn't shuffle your email into 3 different things where it has promotions, media updates, or something like that, and the primary. But everything will filter into one place. The best advice I can give for getting rid of unwanted emails is always going to be send a junk. Always. Even if it's promotional. And the cool thing is, let's say right now you need a break. I'm getting too many things from Macy's. I want a break. I can send it to junk. I can always later unjunkify it and have it start coming in again if I want. So when you unsubscribe, it's a little bit different. So for example, from my email mailing list, if someone unsubscribes, they can never subscribe again to prevent abuse. So some companies work like that. So that's the danger of unsubscribing on top of all the other dangers. I saw another hand over here. Yes.
Can you close an account like your email account?
Absolutely.
On
Yep.
Gmail, that way you're gone.
Absolutely you can. Yep.
Don't delete it. Just close the darn.
You totally can. Yep.
But it's very hard. How about Facebook?
You can absolutely delete a Facebook
I can't
account.
figure it out.
Yeah. They make it hard on purpose, but you absolutely can do it. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Someone passes away, they haven't been really like completed.
So, I mean, unless there's a ongoing need to have that, that's something that could easily just be closed. You can just go into the settings and close that account down after you ensure that everything's on the up and up with subscriptions and things like that. That's why I really focus on making sure that you know where everything is paid out of before you start canceling things so you don't have things disappear that you needed. Okay, well, my information is at the bottom of every page of the little handout. If I can help in any way with your preparation, if you need digital executor assistance, have scam questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Thanks for coming today. Yeah.
Idea what you would charge to, I'm sure it depends on the circumstances.
It does. So they're actually at the top of the notes. There is a website address. It's on my website and it tells you everything about the digital executive services that we offer. So if you want to check that out, they're there. Yes.
Say, or if you need your computer rebuilt or upgraded. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's fun to see some familiar faces out here today for sure. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this hard but important topic.